We now go on to our next session, titled Catalysing ZET Deployment Through Subnational Policies and Strategies. The discussion will be moderated by Ms. Samhita Shiledar, Principal at RMI, and the panel would be featuring Shri Ashish Tiwari, Secretary, Department of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Shri Abhishek Prakash, CEO, Invest UP, Shri Rajesh Dangi, Secretary, Delhi Electricity Regulatory Commission, Shri Jitendra Patil, Additional Transport Commissioner, Government of Maharashtra. We look forward to exploring how subnational policies and strategies can drive the deployment of ZETs.
Thank you so much. The rapid growth of India's freight demand and trucking sector is crucial for the economy, but poses challenges in terms of air pollution as well as operating costs due to the reliance on diesel trucks. I think we all are at EFAST here today, so I don't have to emphasize on the importance of transitioning to zero-emission trucks in terms of improving the air quality, reducing the overall operational costs, as well as reducing the air pollution. ZET adoption promises economic, public health, and environmental benefits, and to accelerate this transition, coordinated efforts across market ecosystems, especially at the subnational level, are vital. While national policies set the direction, it is at the state and local levels where most of the implementation is going to take place. And hence, state governments can play a pivotal role through incentives, infrastructure planning, and partnerships with local industries. I'm really excited that we have a very diverse panel here with us today, starting with Shri Abhishek Prakashji, CEO, Invest UP. He serves as the CEO of Invest UP. Invest UP is an organization of the state government of Uttar Pradesh dedicated towards promoting and facilitating investment in the state, besides solving various problems of existing and upcoming industries. Then, along with us, we also have Shri Jitendra Patil, Additional Transport Commissioner, Government of Maharashtra. His role is crucial in overseeing and managing state's transportation infrastructure and regulations, and he also plays a key role in implementation of the state EV policy. Next, I would like to welcome Shri Rajesh Dangi ji, from Delhi Electricity Regulatory Commission. He started his career as an assistant engineer with Haryana Power Corporation Limited and has also worked as a deputy director in Delhi Electricity Regulatory Commission as well as Joint Electricity Regulatory Commission for State of Goa. Presently, he is working as a secretary at DERC since December 2022. Virtually with us, we have joining us Mr. Ashish Tiwari, who is Secretary, Environment, Forest and Climate Change with Department of Government of Uttar Pradesh, Lucknow. Tiwari sir is member of Indian Forest Services with more than 25 years of success spanning across policy and planning level senior positions, such as Secretary of Environment, Forest and Climate Change at Government of Uttar Pradesh, Member of Secretary at Uttar Pradesh Pollution Control Board, Member Secretary at UP State Climate Change Authority, and Member Secretary at Uttar Pradesh Environmental Impact Assessment Authority. I'm really excited for today's panel since we have very diverse panelists from different states. And with that, myself, Samhita Shiledar, I will be moderating today's session. I'm a director with RMI's Global Transportation Practice. Today. Can you all hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today. We already have just had a panel discussion on national level policies. So I want to shift gears a little bit and pose the very first question, which is what specific subnational policies, which are either currently in place already for 2, 3 or 4-wheelers, do you believe has the greatest potential to accelerate the zero emission trucking ecosystem? So what existing policy within the existing EV policy or any other new policy that could be most beneficial for zero-emission trucking adoption in your state? We can start with Jitendra, sir.
Should I start?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, Government of Maharashtra has come up with an EV policy in 2021, wherein we have identified 4 to 5 verticals insofar as promoting EV registration in Maharashtra. One, you can't hear? Now it's okay? Yeah, thank you. One incentive that government of Maharashtra is giving is we are having 100% tax exemption on electric vehicles which are registered in Maharashtra till March 2025. We are also planning to extend it further. Apart from that, it's the user requirement which matters because the time taken for charging. Basically, vehicle offers you mobility. So mobility is to be considered first. So the infrastructure of charging is important. So that is also taken into consideration. What we find is basically the number of two-wheelers are increasing, number of four-wheelers are increasing. We have also basic demand incentive given to the OEMs so that the OEMs manufacture more vehicles and they sell. Insofar as charging infrastructure is concerned, we find there is a potential in paratransit EV conversion, that is auto rickshaws, essentially in urban areas, and public buses, which could be converted into electric vehicles. But the paratransit vehicles have a limitation in terms of charging facilities because the auto rickshaw driver is an individual. He may not have his personal parking facility where he can have charged his vehicle. This is one issue, I think, which is to be seen at a macro level. Apart from that, we are new into electric vehicles. Over a period of time, what are the maintenance challenges, preventive maintenance challenges that will come up out of EV vehicles? We have been witnessing certain mishaps like fire in two-wheelers. So what could be the design aspect of cooling a battery? That is a challenge for the EV vehicle designers. But all in all, the government of Maharashtra is positive in promoting EVs because EV reduces localized pollution. For example, we have urban conglomerates of Pune, Mumbai, Nagpur, Aurangabad. They are into the clean air city mission, and we have a mandate also to that effect. So as a mandate from High Court as well as from NGT, we have to comply with it. These are the policy parameters under which we are framing our policies. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I'll pass it to Abhishek, sir. Next, any particular policy, especially within UP, that you think could be most impactful for zero-emission trucking adoption?
See, as the first session, it was on a national perspective, and the states are the key players to implement it. So the state government of UP is aligned with the vision for net zero emission by 2070, as is the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister and given for the entire nation. So in line of that, the state government came up with a policy in year 2022. That is for another 5 years. So the implementation of this policy will be till 2027. So there are 4 important pillars of this EV manufacturing, promotion and adoption policy is the name of the policy. So the first pillar is to promote manufacturing of electric vehicles. That is one. Second is the promotion for manufacturing of batteries, because that is the most important component cost-wise and component-wise for the electric vehicles. Third is on the adoption side. So on the adoption side, it is not only the pure electric vehicles, but also the strong hybrids. Because the studies have proved that strong hybrids, they also, as compared to the ICE, the internal combustion engines, the reduction of the fuel emission, which is the polluting component, is by another 40 to 45% is over there. So strong hybrid, not on the manufacturing side, but on the adoption side as well. And fourth and really important is the development of charging infrastructure ecosystem. Because that is a cycle that charging infrastructure has to come first or the electric vehicles have to come first. They have to go parallelly together. So as I was mentioning, in the first pillar, what the state is supporting is up till 30% of subsidy on the manufacturing side of the capex. And at the same time, the state government also facilitates adoption and allocation of land for such purposes. So one of the mega plants has started its construction. I think the commercial production will be there by mid of next year, 2025, by Ashok Leland. So they have come up with a new plant for manufacturing of EV buses and commercial vehicles. Second important thing is for the batteries, as was mentioned by my colleague from Maharashtra government also, that one of the technological challenges is the sustainability of these batteries. The safety standards, they have to keep on evolving. And third is the cost of it. Because cost is something of any electric vehicle, if you say, the cost of the battery component is around 55 to 60%. And then it needs to be replaced after a period of 6 to 7 years, that's an average. And if you go on the commercial vehicle heavier side, then this battery becomes more and more important, and its replacement side. Third very important thing is the charging ecosystem. So charging ecosystem we are promoting through our municipal bodies for the allocation of lands across the expressways and the national highways in the state, because that is the distance on which one has to provide at an optimal distance on these expressways as well as the highways. And fourth is the ecosystem subsidy for promoting the adoption of these vehicles. So right now, state government is providing subsidy on the vehicles which are being registered and purchased in the state of UP. 100% tax duty exemption is there. There's also a purchase subsidy of 1 lakh per car, as well as for the buses and trucks to this amount is 30,000 per vehicle. And it can be aggregated by till 10 vehicles by an aggregator, so that adoption becomes faster. So on the buses side, we have seen that this adoption is being done by aggregators like by the schools, because they are the ones who have got larger fleets. The State Transport Corporation is adopting the electric vehicle buses. And then the city, municipal city services, the buses. So they are again adopting it. Charging ecosystem is something which I think is really important, and our stakeholders from who are in this seminar is something we need to come up with in a faster way. How more and more charging infrastructure stations can come, especially I'm talking about the fast charging infrastructure stations, because the normal slow charging can be done at home, overnight one can charge it, but the fast charging station, so that more distance is traveled and the charging time is shortened over there. For the beginning, the state is also subsidizing it through the exemption of electric duty charges, as well as the charges which we are now, the schedule of charges of our electricity tariff is we have kept it for another 3 years, that is till 2026, on the domestic tariff charges itself, not on the commercial charges itself, so as to promote it. So these are the few important policy incentives and the policy pushes that the state government is doing on it.
Thank you for highlighting that. I'll pass it to Rajesh, sir. Any particular zero-emission trucking related policy?
Yeah, thank you, Samhita. Actually, charging infrastructure and tariffs is very important for development of this zero-emission trucks, which are required to be developed along the national highways. Within city, infrastructure development is very difficult. But in greenfield projects, it's easy because you have land available, you have cheaper land for solar generation, for net, you can introduce the concepts of net metering, group net metering, when a group of these aggregators can set up a solar plant or a wind generation plant. They can wheel the power through the DISCOM's lines, and that can be net off. That can be a win-win business model. Then we can have a battery energy storage solutions also in cities, multi-story for buses, like in Delhi Transport Corporation. They are having multiple level transport charging infrastructure. They can have bi-directional chargers, so that when buses are parked during the evening, suppose buses normally come to the depots at the time of at 11 p.m. And they, if you're the peak power in metro cities like Delhi, we have peak time expensive power from 11 to 1 a.m. So they can have smart charger which can start charging at 1 a.m. rather than starting charging at 11 p.m. only. So we can have bi-directional charges. The batteries of these trucks or the buses can be utilized to give back power to the grid. And they can earn from that resource too. Because as batteries are gradually becoming cheaper, we can use the batteries of these trucks and those buses for supplying power back to the grid during peak hours. They can also go for this captive generation also, where they can set up any of their plants outside. Only the conditions are that 25% of they should have equity, and 50% consumption they should use for their own use. Then we can have other tariff incentives we have also given. There are no fixed charges or capacity charges being levied on EV charging infrastructure at present, and this is likely to continue. And the tariffs are also very low. In Delhi, we have around 4 rupees per kVh for charging infrastructure, which is quite low as compared to other categories. Even domestic average power is higher than this value. And the time of day tariff, which has been introduced by several states. So that smart charges charges, if they are introduced, they can charge during off-peak hours. That can be thought of so that maximum utilization of resources can be done, and for grid and infrastructure development in power sector also, we can have a smooth curve throughout the day and night. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for highlighting all of these points. We also have Ashish Tiwari sir joining us virtually. Sir, if you are able to hear us, would like to pass it off to you next. So a question for Ashish Tiwari sir is, what zero emission trucking related policies do you think could be really effective in terms of promoting the adoption in the state? I think we are facing some technical challenges. Yeah. Apologies for this. We'll just take a few seconds to rectify the issue. Sir, can you hear us? Maybe you can try to speak.
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Can you repeat your question, please?
Yes, so the question is, in terms of promoting the adoption of zero-emission trucks in the state of UP, what policies do you think could be most effective?
Thank you. Thank you very much for initiating this very pertinent discussion. I would like to bring a different perspective with respect to zero-emission trucks. We have done a detailed study on airshed that related to contribution of different sources on PM 2.5 levels at the state level. And to our great surprise, that we found that within the transport sector, the maximum contribution of PM 2.5 within the transport sector is from heavy duty vehicles. And that too, if you further analyze it, then heavy duty trucks, they are the bigger culprits. If I tell you the figures from UP state, the number of registered BS1 vehicles, heavy duty vehicles is 18,856, and registered BS2 vehicle is 2,60,517. And BS3 is 1,85,991. And further I would like to notice the figure of number of these three category of vehicles which are obtaining fitness certificate is very low as compared to registered vehicles. So I don't want to say, but I think it's a clear indication that the highest polluting categories of heavy duty vehicles, they are also not in the fitness net. So that is the problem. I think this is why the contribution of heavy duty trucks within the transport sector for PM 2.5 is very high. So now, after getting this knowledge, it has come to the forefront of airshed based air quality management interventions. We have started thinking over that what kind of intervention we can bring in for phasing out heavy duty trucks. Like ZET zero emission truck adoption is definitely we are discussing it ahead of time. I can understand, but every policy issue I think should be discussed ahead of time. When we discussed with concerned stakeholders and also did kind of a review on research available, we found that this transition cannot be abruptly to ZETs. Like it has to be a phased transition. Like first of all, we have made a policy. We are drafting a policy wherein this maximum polluting vehicles can be off-roaded with some kind of incentive. And what kind of incentive we may provide from the state level or any other externally aided projects just to get these trucks which may not be earning much of a income to the owners. Maybe we discussed with the transporters associations and they say that these are the source of subsistence livelihood for the owners as far as the individual truck owners are concerned, but for aggregators this number is very, very low. So they requested that if an incentive can be built upon to off-road these vehicles only without mandating the purchase of a new truck. So that is kind of a phase transition, phase one in our minds. Second is, like if we want to transit to battery or fuel cell heavy duty trucks, then there is also intermediary. You can take a success story of China where LNG trucks are about 20% of total heavy duty trucks sold in Chinese market. So LNG trucks also could be a better option because the emissions from LNG trucks is 1/4 of BSS trucks and maybe even less for these heavy polluting trucks. And of course, ultimately for the transition towards like zero emission trucks, battery and fuel cell operated trucks. So as rightly told by my colleague that there are challenges with respect to infrastructure, there are challenges with respect to the capital cost also. And then we worked out the capital cost and the kinds of incentives which are available. I think the enabling policy environment is now very, very favorable. Like if somebody wants to scrap its old truck, then 4 to 6% the scrappage value can also come in his hand. Secondly, the purchase discount. Recently, the MORTH minister has announced the purchase discount by OEMs that would be around 3% for heavy duty trucks. That will also be very, very useful for this transition. And if at the state level we are trying to offer from our proposed clean air project, a capital incentive for purchasing a new LNG or battery operated truck. So this, and at the same time, I think the fee-based mechanism is at one place and the regulatory mechanism like increasing the fitness fees and all and more enforcement on the trucks which are plying without fitness certificates would become very, very, you can say, useful for enabling this transition. So this is what in our mind at the state of UP level. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for highlighting the importance of zero-emission trucks and also sharing a wide variety of policies that could be helpful. I know we have a very diverse panel with representatives from transportation department, electricity sector, environment sector, as well as investment. So I have one or two more specific questions which are also related to your state. So my first question is for Abhishek Prakash sir. We just heard about some of the most effective policies that could play a role in terms of zero-emission trucking transition. But my specific question to you was, in addition to alignment with climate and sustainability goals, how do zero-emission trucks fit into UP's economic development initiative? And how can state create a conducive environment to attract domestic as well as international investment, especially in the zero-emission trucking sector?
See, the concept of zero-emission trucks, if you say that it is, what is the footprint, if you count the footprint also, then it is a very tricky subject then. Because the power which is being used for the charging infrastructure, whether it is coming from a sustainable source of energy or it is coming from a fossil fuel, that is one point. Second is, what about the recyclability or the disposal of the batteries which are being used? That is another point that has to be looked into. So, as of now, the market economics is not tilted in its favor. Three important components are there. First is the huge amount of investment that is needed, the pricing of these trucks, number two. And third is the support infrastructure, be them the charging infrastructure, be it them the battery ecosystem, be it the recyclability of it, and the kind of power which is being used. But that is the way to go ahead, along with phasing of the vehicles, as Secretary Environment Government of UP was also telling, that phasing is something which state is doing. Phasing of the internal combustion engine trucks, the older norms one being the first ones to be phased out, then gradually, and replacing them with cleaner technology trucks. As on date, UP is a state with the largest network of roads and highways and expressways. And it connects the NCR region and the northern foothills of the country to the other central part of the country to the eastern part of the country. Adding to the trucks, the second important channel or the medium for the transportation is the railways. I'm putting in this perspective of railways, reason being, now the dedicated freight corridors development is in its almost final stages, be it the eastern dedicated freight corridor or the western dedicated freight corridor. So the freight movement has to be either through railways in the landlocked states or it has to be through the roads. So the potential is much more, especially for the perishable goods or for the shorter distance transportation. Shorter distance, I mean somewhere from 500 to 1500 kilometers of range. But the ecosystem as on date is not tilted in favor of the OEMs, the manufacturers or the battery manufacturers or the recyclers. So that trust has to be there, and we need to have a long-term perspective for the same. As was being discussed in the first panel, that FAME 3 guidelines, so another support infrastructure or support system from Government of India will be coming once these are being included in FAME 3, because till date, till FAME 2, trucks are not included into that. State governments are also promoting the manufacturing of this, including the government of UP. But as on date, the investments in this sector, they are not that much. Reason being, cost. Most important thing is the cost. So that economics we have to work out. But the solution is to go for cleaner technologies and ultimately to zero emission technologies. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I know Abhishek sir and Ashish sir have to leave in a little bit. So my next question is actually for Ashish sir. Just a different side of the equation with respect to zero-emission trucking. What measures do you think can be taken to ensure that the transition to zero-emission trucking is smooth and just, especially for SMEs and local businesses? What could be done in terms of having initiatives on training drivers, in terms of maintenance personnel? How can states support these businesses in overcoming potential barriers to adopting ZETs?
I think no doubt about it, like our country's policy is regarding the just transition must be kept in mind for the transport sector also. Not only for this transition, but training and capacity building is such an area And I think for transport sector, for particularly for heavy duty vehicles, it has been not in the forefront so far. So that this transition to cleaner technologies, whether it is retrofitment, whether it is LNG, or whether it is zero emission trucks, whatever transition we are foreseeing in a phased manner, I think it is really very, very important that training capacity building for just transition must take a forefront in our approaches. And keeping this in mind, like in our Clean Air project, we have also built up a very robust training capacity building component for transitioning to low emission and zero emission vehicles, not only for heavy duty trucks, but also for IPTs and other modal transport systems. What I mean to say that, like, for training and capacity building, the real challenge is basically the lack of knowledge centers locally. I think that is the biggest challenge. I think if somebody wants to go for a training, either he should go to ARAI or some other institutes. But for these basic kind of trainings, we must have local knowledge centers. And for this, we have well thought of in our Clean Air projects that 15 our academic institutions and research institutions in our state will be developed as knowledge centers for giving training locally to them. You can't expect a driver going to Delhi for taking training. So that is our approach, that knowledge network within the state at sub-regional level has also to be there. And there should be an apex institute, which we thought that IIT Kanpur and in collaboration with other sector institutes of reputes can become an apex institute which can do a good capacity building of all regional knowledge centers. And also the Skill India mission can come in as a great come and play a great role, that if we can actually organize a certified courses like courses for mechanics and operators for these technologies, then also it will help the ecosystem to grow in a just way. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Just on the similar topic of supporting with the industry, supporting with MSMEs, I want to shift gears a little bit in terms of looking at the economic activity, and my next question is for Patil sir. A lot of economic activity in the state is usually, it's usually concentrated along the corridors, and Maharashtra government has particularly highlighted 4 corridors to be converted into electric corridors. So my question to you is, how can this targeted approach of adopting zero-emission trucking corridors can help with the deployment, help with accelerating deployment of zero-emission trucks, and what other additional measures are being considered in terms of electrifying these corridors? And apart from battery electric trucks, are there any other technologies that are also being considered by Maharashtra government, especially from infrastructure planning perspective?
Yeah. Insofar as promoting use of electric vehicles, we have 2 major urban agglomerates, that is MMR and Pune, where the charging infrastructure is stressed upon. For example, Pune and Pimpri-Chinchwad, we are able to lift up the charging infrastructure, and we have noticed that number of EV registration in Pune and Pimpri-Chinchwad has significantly increased. So it has a direct relation to the charging infrastructure. But I would like to go a bit further. These are known facts that we have to have an infrastructure, we have to have technology. But my appeal to the designers, vehicle manufacturers, is that we are looking at EVs with the conventional concept that we have of the vehicles. The present-day vehicle was designed to accommodate the IC engine with the power transmission which took through the propellers back to the rear axle, which raised the height of the vehicle. How we can, with electric vehicles coming into picture, the power transmission, you don't require the propeller shafts. You can have 4 motors at the wheels, thereby changing the design. So the aerodynamic design of the vehicle is one concern. The CG of the vehicle gets down. The moment CG of the vehicle gets down, you can improve in efficiency and wind resistance. So certain things which need to be looked upon, like aerodynamics, improved thermal management, range optimization, wireless charging. I mean to say, this is one thing where if we could come up, that will ease up. Everything comes from user's perspective point of view. What is the user experience? If we really go into the history of development of automobile, rules came later and innovations came earlier. So it was subsequently the innovations which were to be regulated. So that aspect needs to be seen. Insofar as ZET for heavy vehicles is concerned, it's a very good concept, because then in that case, we are going to optimize the space of the vehicle for carrying more cargo effectively. One more thing I would like to suggest here is in terms of regulations, if the MORTH colleagues are there, one is electric vehicles have less moving parts, so you have less vibrations compared to IC engines. Thereby, if we can think about increasing the fitness validity of the electric vehicles, that will help the user. Otherwise, he has to come every year or 2 years for fitness, and that is also a hindrance for him. So user experience will increase, because electric vehicles by design itself are having less vibrations, so they are less, there is less wear and tear. That aspects need to be looked into. But one important aspect is EV charging and the bi-directional charging, our panel which discussed, because electric vehicle itself should be considered as a storage for electricity in peak hours and in peak hours and lean hours. I think these issues, if we are able to highlight through policy at the state level, it will give a great fillip to EV penetration as such.
Thank you so much. My question, next question is for Rajesh sir. Just building upon what Patil sir had already mentioned, anything else you would like to add in terms of effective policy, particularly for infrastructure development, but also on supply and demand side? Anything that could be done to promote manufacturing of zero-emission trucks, or anything that can be done to promote deployment of infrastructure?
In the power sector, we introduced the solar generation. For the last 20 years, we have been giving no charges for transmission. A person can install a solar panel in Rajasthan, and that power can be wheeled to Delhi at free of cost. Second thing, he can get the same power, no losses. That losses are borne by the other thermal generators. So similarly, whenever a sector wants to be incentivized, we have to give incentives to them and tax the other one. Polluter pays principle. So we need to give more incentives to the EVs, and unfortunately, we will have to tax the diesel and petrol vehicles to get money, so that same money can come from the same sector. This concept helped power sector to build in a lot of solar, wind generation, hybrid generation. So same thing can be done in the transport sector also.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. I have one last question, same question for all of the panelists in a lightning round, just because we are short on time. I want to leverage this multi-stakeholder nature of today's event. We have national government present here. We have so many industry players who are present with us, and also different industry players. So my question is, what needs to be done in terms of ensuring better collaboration across national government, across different state governments? And since a lot of industry players are also here, what does industry need to do? So 30 seconds or 1 minute at the max, everyone. We'll start with Abhishek, sir, maybe. What can be done in terms of ensuring better collaboration between national and state government, and any call for action for industry players who are present here today?
See, I think there is already a great deal of collaboration between all these stakeholders. But we really need to focus on processes as well as products. For example, I'll just quote an example. Identifying corridors is a process. But these less emission, economical trucks or commercial vehicles is a product. So I think over there, innovation has to play a big role, and our industry colleagues are here. And unless we innovate in that way, those products has to be economically viable. So then only transporters will, naturally they are going to adopt it. Once they adopt it, the rules and the processes will be defined accordingly by the state governments or the central government. So I think most important thrust has to be on innovating, and innovating such products which are economically viable and they are sustainable at the same time.
Thank you for sharing that. Pass it to Patil, sir.
As my colleague has already mentioned, it's at the end of the day, it's the user experience which matters. The demand will come from user experience. And if we are able to come up with such products, then regulations can follow also. There are two ways, like through demand incentive or through regulation promoting a technology, which we have already done by giving exemptions to tax exemptions, demand incentive to EV vehicles, so that the manufacturers come up with these models. And subsequently, once there is a critical mass, then regulations will come at the next type of regulations will come into picture. So all in all, as one of the speakers has told, we need to develop knowledge centers where this information dissemination can come up. The driver is to be taught about how the EVs are to be used. The passenger is to be taught about how the EVs are to be used. And all the stakeholders need to come together. And such knowledge centers will help in developing the policy.
Thank you so much. Rajesh, sir, over to you.
Actually, market forces should first manage the entire demand and supply. And regulation should come only whenever and wherever it is required. That is urgent. New innovations, just like my colleague from Maharashtra said, the new innovation, new charging infrastructure, because the running cost depends on the charging cost of the vehicle. So if charging cost is cheaper options are available, smarter options are available, those innovations need to be done in those charging stations. So those need to be augmented further.
I'll also ask Ashish Tiwari Sirji, same question. How can we ensure better collaboration between national and state government, and what does industry need to do to take this transition forward?
At national level, I think the line ministries and the Niti Aayog is doing its yeoman's job. And the state level, I think UP has developed a kind of a framework where there are two, you can say, two arms of this collaboration by which we can collaborate with the center and the national government. That one is the development of knowledge. So for that, I think our department has been given a role in environment, forest, climate change across the sectors related to transition and environment. And when it comes like collaboration with innovators, collaboration with research, development, policy research, etc. So that is one side, and the other side is the facilitation side. And I think you are having a right officer on the dais, Mr. Abhishek ji. So the Invest UP department is collaborates very well when it comes for implementation of this kind of a transition, and also collaborates with the bankers and other institutions also. So this kind of a framework will work, I think, at the sub-regional level.
Thank you so much. I want to thank all of the panelists for sharing their insights today. We have time for maybe just a couple of questions from audience, just in case there are any. Any questions from the audience? for the panelists? Right, hearing none, thank you so much again for joining us today, and I'll pass it back to WRI team.
Thank you. Thank you to all our panelists again for this enriching discussion.